Doctor Doom ascends as Sorcerer Supreme. The story opens inside the Temple of the First Blasphemy, hidden within New York City, and before anything else, the context matters. Blade didn't just go rogue, he seized control of the entire vampire nation, overthrowing Dracula. The reason behind it hasn't been fully revealed yet, but the consequences are already catastrophic. More importantly, Blade gained control over the Darkforce, an entire dimension of pure, impenetrable darkness. Light doesn't exist there, nothing escapes it. With that power, Blade didn't just empower vampires, he changed the world. The sky itself was swallowed, sunlight vanished, the planet was plunged into endless night, giving vampires free reign to dominate without restraint. It's not far off from the idea of humanity blocking out the sun, except here it actually worked. Most of the event's side stories focused on scattered heroes fighting off vampire hordes, but those were distractions. The real story is what this power did at the top level. Blade crushed resistance, the Avengers were overwhelmed, Thor was taken out, Black Panther was captured, the strongest heroes on Earth were pushed to the brink and losing, and with the world collapsing under eternal darkness, the story shifts focus to the one man who might still have a plan, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is no longer operating in a physical body that's already gone, turned into a vampire. To stop the corruption from spreading, Clea forcibly separated his spirit from his body. What remains is Strange in astral form, still thinking, still acting, but no longer fully anchored to reality, and his next move is telling. He goes to Doctor Doom, because when things reach this level of collapse, Doom becomes unavoidable. As the narrative unfolds, two threads run in parallel. The Avengers collapse under Blade's forces, and Doom calmly laying out the truth behind it all, and that truth changes everything. Blade isn't Blade, he's possessed. The entity controlling him is Varnae, the original vampire, not just an ancient figure, but the first of his kind. That revelation comes through Black Panther, who remains imprisoned despite being bitten. He should have turned, but something is holding it back. When T'Challa confronts Blade, demanding to know who he truly is, the answer is blunt, not Blade. The first, at first glance, it sounds like a title, but it's literal. Varnae isn't claiming power, he's stating origin, the source of vampirism itself, and that realization reframes the entire conflict. This isn't just a vampire uprising, it's a return of something far older and far more dangerous. Here's where the story stumbles slightly, because Varnae's role is massive, but the explanation given is minimal. On the surface, he's just introduced and left at that, but his history runs deep. Varnae's origins trace back to ancient Marvel lore, particularly Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, long before modern civilization, before even the Celestials reshaped Earth. Varnae was a sorcerer experimenting with forbidden magic, specifically the Darkhold. That path led him to Stockthan, an elder god tied to chaos and corruption. Through that connection, Varnae became something else entirely. The first vampire not created, transformed through dark magic. Over time, Varnae stepped back, passing leadership of the vampire race to Dracula, but his influence never disappeared. When Doctor Strange eventually went to war with the vampire nation, it shattered their dominance and left their species fractured. What remained wasn't an empire, just remnants, and now that original force, the one that started it all, is trying to reclaim control. That history explains why vampires in Marvel have felt diminished for years, disorganized, scattered, constantly referencing a past they can't reclaim, because that past belonged to Varnae, and now he's back, but without a body, so he takes one. Doctor Doom reveals the truth. Years ago, Varnae's follower, Marie Laveau, attempted to turn Blade into a vessel. It failed, but it wasn't abandoned. Blade's unique physiology, part human, part vampire, immune to sunlight, made him the perfect host, a being with none of the traditional weaknesses. The first attempt didn't succeed. The second one did, and now Varnae isn't just leading vampires. He's inhabiting the most dangerous version of one possible. That earlier attempt Doom references comes from Blade, the Vampire Hunter 5, where Blade was nearly transformed into Varnae's host decades ago. It didn't fully land back then, which is why Varnae has largely remained obscure. But the concept was always there. Varnae operates like other ancient dark entities, similar to Stockthan in nature, constantly seeking a body strong enough to contain him. Blade fits that requirement perfectly. He's already a hybrid. His immunity to sunlight isn't natural. It came after being bitten by Morbius. That mutation removed the biggest limitation vampires face, which means Varnae now controls a form that can walk in daylight, command the vampire race, and exist without restriction. It's the ideal vessel, and during this exchange, the scale of the problem becomes clear. This isn't just possession. It's optimization. Varnae didn't just return, he upgraded. Doctor Strange identifies the core weakness immediately. The sky, as long as the Darkforce blankets the Earth, vampires dominate. Remove it. restore sunlight, and everything changes. Most vampires would be destroyed instantly. The rest would retreat into hiding. It's the simplest solution, and Doom already anticipated it. He doesn't react with surprise, he confirms it. The Darkforce dimension has been abused for years. Different users tapping into it, experimenting with it, treating it like a tool instead of what it actually is. An entire dimension. Eventually, someone was going to weaponize it at scale. Blade, under Varnae's control, did exactly that. He didn't just use Darkforce, he unified it, forced it into global dominance. And now the world is paying the price. Clea moves to act immediately. If this is magic, then they respond with magic. Gather power, counter it directly. Doom shuts that down, not out of hesitation, but precision, because brute force isn't enough. What's needed isn't just power, it's control, and Doom already has a plan.
Doom doesn't ask for time. He reveals he's already prepared, a gathering of magic users, not just powerful individuals, but an organized force, Clea, strange, mystical entities, and most importantly, Strange Academy. Doom has already brought in the students, young, unrefined, but still connected to powerful magical lineages. It's an army most people forget exists, but Doom didn't. Strange offers to assemble allies. Doom interrupts him. It's already done. Then comes the real demand. Give it to me. Strange hesitates because he doesn't understand, until Doom clarifies. The power of the Sorcerer Supreme. That's the only way this works. Not assistance, not cooperation, transfer of power. Because what Doom is planning requires absolute authority over magic itself. At the same time, the narrative branches out. The Avengers prepare for another assault. Other heroes fight scattered battles, multiple fronts are unfolding simultaneously, and in the middle of all of it, Doom positions himself at the center, not reacting. Controlling.
Elsewhere, the story shifts to Hunter's Moon and Tigra, two characters tied directly to Moon Knight's world. Their objective isn't random. They're searching for Khonshu. Because Khonshu has been removed from the equation after Moon Knight defeated him, Khonshu was imprisoned in Asgard. It was Marvel's way of sidelining the character, giving Moon Knight space to exist without constant manipulation. But now that absence matters, because without Khonshu, something is missing, so they go to retrieve him. When they arrive, Khonshu recognizes Hunter's Moon, immediately calling him his son. But there's no warmth in it, only calculation. He claims he's powerless, trapped, useless, but they didn't come unprepared. They brought the Wrecker, and that changes everything. The Wrecker isn't just muscle, he's a key. His power originates from Asgardian magic accidentally granted to him decades ago. But that power isn't just in him, it's tied to his weapon, the crowbar. And that crowbar is strong enough to break into an Asgardian prison. That's why he's here. With a single strike, he forces the lock open, shattering Khonshu's containment, and just like that, Khonshu is free. This moment carries weight beyond the immediate story. It's a reset, a deliberate move by Marvel to bring Moon Knight back into alignment with his original dynamic. Because without Khonshu, Moon Knight evolves with him, he's pulled back, and that shift is already happening. Back with Blade now fully under Varnae's control, the plan is revealed. He speaks of Atlantis, of righting the Darkhold, of beginning this transformation long before the modern world existed. This isn't a sudden rise, it's a continuation. Varnae never stopped, and now with the Darkforce under his command, the blood of a god within reach and absolute control over his domain, he prepares to complete what he started. Black Panther questions it, but the response is immediate. Becoming a vampire was never the goal, it was only the first step, a prototype. Varnae wasn't aiming to rule vampires. He was building towards something beyond them, something final, and as he calls the Darkforce to himself, the scale escalates instantly. He doesn't just control it, he becomes it. Varnae transforms into something far beyond a vampire. He becomes the Darkforce itself. A living embodiment of an entire dimension, darkness that consumes light, cold that erases warmth, a force capable of devouring worlds. It raises a massive question, one Marvel rarely explores directly. If someone controlled an entire dimension like this, could they challenge cosmic entities? On paper, it sounds absurd, but Darkforce isn't normal energy. It can't be penetrated or countered easily, not even by the strongest magic users. And yet there's doubt, because power like this often comes with ego, and Varnae is speaking like someone who believes he's already won. Then something changes. The moon appears for the first time since Khonshu's imprisonment. It returns to the sky, and that shift matters more than anything Varnae just declared. Khonshu's presence reshapes the battlefield instantly. His voice cuts through the darkness, calm, absolute, inevitable. He doesn't oppose darkness. He defines balance, light and shadow, life and death, and in that balance, his power returns. Across the world, his followers rise. Warriors long dead, reawaken to serve again, not living, not breathing, but relentless, and leading them. Moon Knight, resurrected. This ties directly into the rules established earlier. Moon Knight doesn't return endlessly. there's a limit, and once it's reached, death becomes permanent. He had already crossed that line, which means this resurrection breaks the rule, not because of logic, but because the story demands it. And now, with Khonshu restored, Moon Knight returns to the battlefield, no longer restrained, no longer absent. Black Panther wasn't trying to kill Varnae. He was preparing the field because Thor enters the fight, now carrying the resistance of the heart-shaped herb through Panther's blood. It allows him to push back against the vampiric infection, to fight, to stand. And alongside him, the Avengers return, not to win, to stall, because this entire battle is a distraction. The real move is happening elsewhere, back with Doom. Clea sees it clearly. The manipulation, the setup, the precision, everything has been orchestrated, and Doom doesn't deny it. He confirms the truth. Only he knows how to reverse the darkness. Only he can complete the ritual, but not without the power of the Sorcerer Supreme, and Strange knows it, so he gives in. Strange doesn't make the decision lightly because he knows Doom's history. This isn't new. Doom has orchestrated entire conflicts before just to gain power, not by accident, by design, and Strange calls it out. Did you create this crisis just to reach this moment? Doom doesn't answer directly, he doesn't need to, because his actions already say enough. Doom lays it out clearly. The Avengers will lose. Khonshu's forces won't be enough. This is the only path to victory. Strange pushes back, demands proof, not strategy, not logic, trust. He asks for Doom's word, that once the world is saved, the power will be returned, and Doom gives it, without hesitation, the word of Doom, and that matters, because Doom doesn't break his word, he bends it, and that distinction changes everything. Strange transfers the mantle, and just like that, Doom becomes Sorcerer Supreme. Elsewhere, Bloodline and Miles Morales take their place in the story. Bloodline, Blade's daughter, is positioned as the key to ending this, not through strength, through connection. She represents the origin and potentially the end. Meanwhile, the Avengers make one last push. Thor recalls his hammer. It returns mid-battle, timed perfectly, but it's still not enough. They can fight, they can resist, but they can't win until Moon Knight arrives and shifts the balance. Even then, Varnae holds control. He traps them all in Darkforce, mocks them, declares the outcome inevitable. He had one weakness, Bloodline, and she wasn't there until she was. She strikes first. Then Miles follows. It doesn't kill him, but it breaks his focus, and that's all that's needed. Doom takes the opening. No hesitation, no build-up. He unleashes everything. Magic on a scale that matches the threat, and he's not alone. The Scarlet Witch joins in. Other mystics follow. Together, they tear into the Darkforce, and once it collapses, Varnae collapses with it. The darkness lifts, the sun returns, and just like that, it's over. But that was never the point. The real outcome isn't Varnae's defeat. It's what comes after. Strange turns to Doom, demands the power back, reminds him of his word, and Doom responds carefully. He promised to return it after saving the world, and he's not done, not even close. In an instant, he removes Strange from the equation entirely and declares his intent. This isn't the end, it's the beginning, because Doom doesn't stop at saving the world, he reshapes it. And now as Sorcerer Supreme, he finally has the power to do it.